Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are and where you be at this moment. My name is Samuel Davis III, and I am here for another session with my friends. See, I'm here with Robin Shin and Benji Kasarik. We are talking today's subject. Our topic today is death in all its glory, in all its power, in all its grandeur that death brings, whether it's the death of a cat, a person you know, a relationship, how death has affected you. We started this subject up because one of our podcasters who's going to join us and hasn't yet, um, he's going through something with his father's death right now. His father is well into his late 90s, and it's just been a subject that's been going on his health, and he's working with this. He's working with this, putting his father down his final resting bed for death, or excuse me, for for passing away. Let me just take that back. I'm sorry about that. It's death can be a serious thing to some, and some people they literally get to the point where they say, "I can't wait till you die and get out of my face. I can't wait till I don't have to deal with you no more." Everyone has a different way of how they deal with death, and myself more recently, I'm looking at upgrading my home. I have my in-laws with me. Both of them are 88 and 90 years old, and I'm going over my paperwork in my house with living trusts and where I want to see things going in my life. And I have never had a time in my life like right now been so close and so tied into and so aware of death and how it can be instant and how it can draw from you and how it can put you in a zone. Some people are always timid about talking about this subject, and other people, as I mentioned earlier, they're ready for some people to go. Some people themselves are ready to take out themselves, and I have dealt with suicidal individuals. I have never myself. My father and I, we used to have this joke that we would always say: if you ever see me hanging from a tree, or if you ever heard that I jumped off a building,
Mhm.
that wasn't me. Somebody killed me. I
Right.
never intend to do that. I plan on living myself out and living this life out
Yeah.
and taking all the bumps and bruises that
Yeah.
life um, affords me. And
Yeah.
some of them I don't like. Others, you know,
Mm.
they do piss me off. And I say to myself,
Mm.
damn, when do I get a break from these situations or this person? But I've never wished death upon anyone, nor
Mhm.
would I want to um, see anybody go through that. Within the last year, my daughter, excuse me, my wife's sister died about a year and a half ago, and after she passed away, we come to find out that she was the one who had actually been taking care of my wife's mother and father. And that
Mm.
being said, they couldn't take care of themselves, so we moved them out here to California with us. So, as I mentioned earlier, death has never been circulating in my mind until I watched my in-laws move and operate around the house and how they operate. It's just one of those things that wow, just all of a sudden I just kind of got felt a little emotional.
Mhm.
I'm not going to cry, but
Mhm.
wow, just seeing the movement because in the future, um, I will possibly be in that situation where I'm, need a walker to get around and
Mhm.
need to be under someone's care. And it's a prideful thing to even discuss that because it's very difficult at times having those discussions with people because
Mhm.
a lot of people are in denial of the fact that I need help and that I'm so close to um I'm beyond my, would you call it twilight years? I guess
Mhm.
maybe.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Death for me has always been something I've, as I mentioned to you before, working in law enforcement, I've seen the dead bodies. I've never had to take no one's life, but I've seen people who have, and how it has affected me is not as bad as some people. I've had individuals that I have counseled and did some trauma therapy with who a very who not a very good friend. Let me just say that this person is we became very close after us having discussions about death. He was over in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and he volunteered, or he didn't volunteer, but what they did was he went in an open general field in the military, and they sent him over to tag and bag bodies, and just totally messed his mind up.
Mm-hmm.
So death can affect people in different ways, and as I have learned from him, just sometimes just the sight of it, you can come numb to it. You can again, some people embrace it. Some people are into this goth thing where they think that death is the next step for power and all these things that I've read about in the comic books, and people have laughed about it and made jokes. But I think it's a serious thing. In particular, once you get well over your in your 50s, and like I'm getting close to 60 now, and you start thinking about these things. So with that being said, death has been a tough thing for me, and it's been very close to me. And I'm not that I see it around me, but again, um, having elders living in my home with me that need to be taken care of. Death is right there in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Got any
That.
comments on that? You want to go, anybody?
Oh gosh, it's like that what I went through during the advanced form, right? It was grueling, and the sad thing is I didn't really have time to really absorb because I had to be there for everybody else, and it's the first time in my life I had to be there for somebody else's, right? For his kids, for his daughter, for his ex-wife, his current situation, and all our friends that we grew up with, right? And they were leaning on me, right? I was the one that had to go find everybody, get everybody together. And that's the first time I had to do that. But emotionally, I had to hold on for a few days before I can actually like process it. And I told my friend too. She's like, she and I go back, and we were like brother sister, and he's like our brother sister, and it I would cry for out of nowhere. I'd be driving around, hear some music that he and I used to go hang out together, and I just start bawling. And I'm not a crier. I was at the grocery store and I was buying some barbecue, and there was some memories about us going to the barbecue place, and I just started crying. And the people think I was losing my mind or something, but that was my thing. And then here I am right now dealing with that, getting all his things in order, making sure that his son, take care of his personal things and things like that. I say, Jeff, your father, his name is Brian, worked very, very hard for these items for you. Don't throw it away yet. Give it a little time. If it still bother you, then give it away. But hold on to those items because um, during my stepfather death, I was going to just let go of a lot of his metal. My stepdad was military too, and Brian and my other friend Monica just got a hold of me and said, "Don't hold on to it. Hold on to it until you have a clarity of mind." And I'm glad they did that because I cherish those memories. Those medals that he earned was something that I hung on to. And those were the key things. But I struggle with that death tremendously. Right now, I'm literally like I have two dog from my ex-wife that I take care of and things like that. I don't really take care of them, but I have a dog caretaker to take care of them. And one of them is dying of cancer at this moment. I'm watching this dog lost half a body weight, can barely walk. It went from in April she was fine, and then in June she was can't stand up straight. She can't walk. She have no control of. It's so difficult. And and for me, I was kind of I guess was lucky in a way that when my mom and my stepdad and my dad passed, I never got a chance to see them die. I actually never see them physically pass. And I actually never seen them except for my birth dad, the physical body that was in the coffin. And even my best friend just recently passed. I never got to see that. I don't know if I could handle that. That was a really tough
Mm.
thing for me. And so that I was protected somehow by the universe not to see those things. I struggle with it because I used to have a rescue dog center, and I've lost so many dogs and I had to put them down. And I knew just from that was difficult as all get out. And the last dog I put down, and I told my ex-wife, these are the new two dogs. I guess I don't want any more dogs, Shirley. I can't handle this. But it was one of those things. She got the dogs. I'm not going to let them go. And here I am in the same situation. I'm going to have to be the caretaker for these dogs until the very last moment. And so it's been really tough. On a personal note, I struggle with death. So Brian have a brother. His name is Glenn. Glenn and I are the same age. We lost Glenn 5 years ago. He and I was on the same track. We were miserable. We were just depressed. We were just. You ever seen that movie like Nicolas Cage, Living Las Vegas, just trying to drink yourself to death? That was us, right? He didn't make it. I made it. I watched him die. Brian and I, and my youngest, my ex youngest son David, we watched him die. We watched him at that last moment at the beach in Galveston, Texas, saying goodbye, and it hits me hard. When he passed, I went south. Remember, I told you I went to jail, got DWI. I went south big time, and David did too in a different way, you know, and that's how I kind of connected with like understand that what he gone through and I gone through. And every day I had to remind myself I'm here for a purpose. I'm here to breathe and I'm here to do my magic, and I'm not finished yet. My lesson's not complete. And as much as I want to check out, I just can't. I know that that's an easy way out, and you know this, and thank God for my stepdad, because military life, you don't take the easy way out. You just got to man up, and every day it's hard. It's just hard sometimes, and and it's like, and people always remind me, it's like, what's so hard about your life, and they're right. I got a really nice life. And I have to change the lens of how I look at things when things go going really badly or whatever it is. Everybody have a bad day. I mean, it's like, this last year was tough as all get out. So back to the same thing we were talking about, like business and stuff. Man, I sunk almost 100 grand on this business. It ain't moving. It's stress, right? I got things to take care like you do. But ultimately, though, I always bounce back. And I know that it sounds weird. It's like I will bounce back again. Back to the you and I talk about me being a home run hitter. I strike out a lot. And sometimes you go in that slump, you kind of like, dang gun it, I got to go back to AAA again, and things like that. You're like, okay, suck it up and go to AAA, get your confidence back up, and come back out and deal with it. Not only I got this, the effect of my best friend passing, and his son wanting to be able to connect with the past, because I have all his memories. I have all his memories. We were together since we were in our 20s. you know so of all the things that went through, we always share together, right? And that was something that it's like I told him, and as well I told the granddaughter that he just had. It's like, when you're ready to know your grandpa, let me know. I know all the stories. I was there then to grow up the years and things like that. So that was for me personally, and every day I have to remind myself, you know, I'm here. Glenn is gone. Everybody's gone, but I'm here. I have to finish this. Our job is to do what we're meant to do. I don't know exactly what that means yet, but I know that I got to keep on trying and keep going, find different way. And part of my connection with you, Samuel, and everybody here is like, I'm still looking for that direction. Maybe, one of our conversation will be a pointer for me in the right direction where I'm supposed to be. But right now, I'm just kind of finding my way, right? And you guys are kind of like a light, kind of help me navigate through this patch of my life. So I do appreciate that. And that I know that eventually I'll come through all that. So I do appreciate that. That's my on it.
Okay. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. Before we jump to you, Robin, um, I just want to. I was just taking some notes here. Um, I know you mentioned about the crying thing, and
Yeah.
I don't want to just kind of shift
Oh,
on
no, no, no.
onto that,
Yeah.
but I think there's always something with men and
Mm,
crying. There's
yeah.
always something about crying. I
Yeah.
think there's always that man pride about you don't want to see nobody let nobody see you cry.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I it can be.
Unless, hey, unless you're trying to get laid,
yeah, yeah.
works great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because because I'm so vulnerable.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right, right,
Fuck.
yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about with that both of you. I personally in my immediate family, I have never lost nobody yet. I have five brothers and a sister, and my mother and father are still here. That's my immediate family. Do either of you have family members that you and I ask you this one I'll start with you on this, Robin. Do you have a family member that you've lost or family members? And going back as well with what Benji mentioned, hey, those pets are a hard thing, and I do remember, and I don't know if you want me even to mention that time when there was an incident with a horse for you at one time, Robin, that we talked about a couple of years ago. How does that affect you in particular, being that you're a horse? I'm not gonna call you a horse wrangler, but a horse man. You manage horses. So how was that for you and death for you in that situation?
What, for horses?
Yeah, just in general, like losing a pet,
Right.
in relation to other family members as well. But
Well, I've had a lot of pets. Um, and there is a feature to animals is that we have pets in general is that, and this is what I tell everybody is like, what's it like having a dog? What's it like having a cat? What's it like having a horse? Now put the horses in a separate category. It's a little bit different, not because I like horses more, but because there's a little bit more to it. But like dogs and cats, a feature of dogs and cats is that they don't live very long. I mean, some people even have rats or hamsters as pets. Rats and hamsters, they die of old age by the time they're 3 years old. Cats, 15, if you get a really old, long lived cat, 18 years maybe. Dogs, anywhere between 12 and 15. Um, and then depending on when you acquired that animal, and maybe the animal might have been 3 or 4 years old when you got it, you only got him for about 10, 8 to 10 years.
yeah.
Um, Now, the reason horses are a little bit different is because horses live a much longer lifespan. And people are always surprised when I tell them that my horse, the horse I'm riding now, it's my main working horse, and she's 24 years old, and we have another one that's still racing, and he's 29. Um, and so they live much longer. So you end up spending a much longer time with them in that sense. So you can develop a stronger bond, a simple virtue of the fact that you're with them for longer. Well, the thing that I do is that I always keep in mind, like I will do everything I can, spend all the money I have to keep my horse healthy and alive. But I always realize, and I always have in my mind, I'm going to watch this horse die one day. And if I'm not ready for that, I shouldn't have got the horse to begin with 20 years ago.
Mm.
Right. Same thing with a dog. Like, somebody says, "Oh, I want to get a dog." I'm like, "You ready to watch it die?" Well, no. Then you ain't ready to get a dog. And so I have a lot of respect for what Benji says. Is like, I don't want to have another dog because I can't take it anymore. Right. And that's a very mature and responsible outlook. It's like, if I don't like watching them die, then you shouldn't. And in that sense, animals are a little bit different from people because when you're dealing with people like, brothers and sisters and loved ones and family members, good best friends, all that kind of shit, you don't expect them necessarily to die before you do.
Hmm.
So therein lies the difference between pets and humans. In pets, if you're shook up about your pet dying, dude, what the fuck? Did you think he was going to live longer? And why is that a surprise? Don't act like that's a shock, right? Or be like Benji and say, I know they're going to die. I'm going to have to put this dog down, you know, eventually, and I don't want to get another dog, right? Makes sense to me, right? You know, and of course, the most unexpected is your children, right? So if you have a child die, that that's highly unexpected, right? You expect to outlive all your children or grandchildren in particular, right? So that's my perspective on it.
Mm. You know, I know that we talked about horse therapy before, and there was there is something about horses that I know from the very moment we talked about that horse therapy, because we were talking about bringing guys in, vets in, and having them just talk and grooming horses and all of that stuff. And there's that energy that you put in with the pet. That you get to see us. They get to see a side of you that some people never even express to their own wives or their own family members when you get a pet. Particularly when you get a big old horse that you can sit there and rub, put your hand around and hug. I know lots of times, I'm 6'3", so I get the little girls that love hugging me. Oh, you're just a big guy and all that. But a hugging on a big old horse for so long, and you're releasing so much stuff with this horse. I can just imagine what it would be like. I wanted you to kind of go back and touch on that horse situation. You remember a couple years ago when you lost that horse,
Yes.
and how did that affect you? And what I would like to know, in all honesty, did you, not that you were trying to, not that you're trying to get a girl, but did you shed some tears for that horse? And just tell me a little more, little bit on that.
Well, it's tough, and I'm actually kind of glad that Dave is not here, uh, because when it comes to dealing with death, for me, um, there's a lot of things wrong with my chair. Hang on a second. There's I have to confess to both of you as my good friends that I have to engage in a lot of dishonesty
Hmm.
uh, in order to fit in with society. And the reason is this, and this is, you know, is that death does not really affect me.
Hmm.
Um, to me, death, when something dies, the issue with me is, oh shit, I won't be able to see that person or that thing again, right? It's gone, right?
Hmm.
And like, well, that's the last time I saw it, and that's it. But I also am very aware of the impermanence of things, so I know everything dies, everything, nothing lasts forever. you know I remember somebody asked me one time, they said, they were asking about relationships, and and they were saying, something about, how do you feel about a relationship that doesn't last, or something, where how do you handle breakups? I'm like, you know all relationships will end. Every single relationship, even if you have your beloved, either you die, the other person died, you both die, or you break up. And from my perspective, there's not much difference between all of those. It's just an end, right? How it ends is really irrelevant, right? So, like, I just had my brother die this year, and when, a few years ago, my father died, and it, my brother was a little unexpected, but I hardly ever see that dude anyway. I am close to my brother. I love my brother, and if I could have kept him alive, I would have done everything I could. But now that when he's gone, and so what happens when someone in my world dies? Everyone comes in and goes, "Oh, how do you feel? How do you feel?" Or, no, 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 really, Robin, how do you feel, really? And I have to pretend to be sad.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I don't fit in. I look like a monster,
Hmm.
right? But I just sometimes I just want to shake people and say, "What, did you fucking think he was going to live forever? Why are you not prepared for this?" Right? If you're 5 or 10 years old, maybe you haven't had enough time to prepare. But for fuck's sake, you're in your 60s or so. What did you think? Right? And it's almost like when somebody gets a fucking, you've been avoiding paying your taxes, your quarterly taxes. Benjamin, you probably understand this better than I do. You haven't been paying your taxes, and then the tax bill comes in, and you go, "Oh shit, I got to pay all these taxes." What? You're shocked at this. You haven't been setting money aside for this. This is your choice. This is your thing, right? And so the the capacity to handle death, I don't wait till it happens to be prepared for it. I prepare for it every day.
Mm.
Uh, I prepare for my mother to die. She's old. I prepare for her, my stepfather to die. He's old. I prepare for my animals to die, and I try to put it off as long as possible, just like my taxes. But I do set aside money for it because that bill's gonna show up, right?
Mm.
It's coming, and it doesn't mean I like it, but I don't. I think a lot of death is the problem that people have with death is the expectation that it's not going to happen, right? Um, but it's going to happen to all of us. And I have a coworker yesterday actually. A coworker told me that he put in some resumes and he was interviewing for a different job. And he's my favorite coworker. I love working with this guy. He's a great guy. And I felt a tinge of sadness and almost a selfish hope that he doesn't get the job, right? So that I could keep working with him, right? But if he does get the job, and I will probably hardly, if ever, see this guy again, right? And I mean, and truthfully, I mean, I probably never will. He'll leave, and and it'll be like he dies. But in my mind, and in the minds of a lot of people, I should say, not in my mind, but in the minds of a lot of people, it's not the same as him dying. Even though in reality, it is. It's the same. I'm never going to see the guy again. You know, that's it. This relationship has ended. Because we're really good friends. He's a good coworker, but not like you and me, Sam. It's not like it's not like we're going to call each other. We don't call each other on weekends and talk about shit and have beers and go watch the game and talk about each other's. I don't know. I don't know his kids, right? I don't know if his parents are still alive. I don't know any of that shit. He's just a good coworker. And as somebody that I work with and I get along with very well at work, I sit there and go, well, he's going to go, and then I'm going to get a different coworker, and I don't know if I'm going to get along with the new guy as much. And change is always annoying because I'm all comfortable in my comfort zone with this guy. But I ain't going to cry about him passing. And the next person that dies in my life, I'm going to have to pretend to cry because otherwise people won't get off my shit. Like they'll insist that I ain't grieving enough, right? And I'm like, I do live the Zen lifestyle. And here's the other thing: it doesn't have to be Zen. It can be Christianity, it can be Islam, it could be Tibetan Buddhism, it can be Zen Buddhism, it could be shamanism. There is not a single, or it could be complete total atheism, but there is not a single uh, philosophical or religious tradition that puts death as a bad thing. Not one.
So, let me ask you this. Now, were you a combat veteran?
Yes.
Okay. I
Yeah, I
wondered.
had to go to Iraq, and yeah.
I wondered that. Now here, this is how do you call it? This is almost like a perfect conversation to have because on one side, what I've always me growing up, I've always looked at most Asian guys to me always seemed to be like that was the emotion side was not a big thing. Now that's my perception of Asians. But then here I go out and meet Benji, and I hear Benji, and I almost think from the day we met, I felt emotion just pouring out of Benji, and in particular in his writing. From that first time I read his writing, I was like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, this dude has got it. So when I hear it from you, that's why I wondered about that whole thing because lots of times when we have known each other for 10, 11 years, over 10 years, right? Easily, Robin.
Yep.
And there are times we've talked about relationships and you brush over it real quick because it's not like just exactly how you describe that. It's one of those things, and I appreciate you being honest with us and saying how it is, because that's actually an aspect to you that I've never encountered. I've had plenty of questions about it. I wanted to ask about your son, right?
Right.
And I've never, when I have, we kind of gloss over and move over that. So I want to say, first and foremost, I appreciate you opening up and speaking like that, honestly, because that's something that I've been curious about. You know, there's this thing, with black people and slaves and families break apart, and mom goes over here and dad goes over here, and we don't get in touch with our families and blah blah blah. And it's always been something for me. But this is almost a tale of two cities with two different Asian guys
Mhm.
who have different things. Now, I I don't want to sit back there and put down anything that you've experienced, but do you think that combat veteran side has made you see things in a different light, as far as like, they come and go, I mean, do you think that helped give you that mentality that you have right now towards death and period?
Actually, I think the opposite a little bit. I think it has sensitized me more, uh, because I was like this before I ever went to combat. But I'll tell you, I hate telling backstories, but I'll have to tell you this one. It's pretty pertinent to the thing. So, um, I went to, I went to the Middle East and fought in wars in there, and as a consequence, we killed people, and and people died, and you know, about a year or two ago, maybe it was 3 years ago, I was at my gym here in California, and I was at the gym, and I was I was teaching some self defense classes and some martial arts classes there, and there was kids there taking the classes. Two kids. I think they were like, I don't know, 10 years old, something like that, 10 or 11-year-old kids, nice kids. And the person who was bringing them to the class was this elderly lady, close to my age, and she was their grandmother. And we got to talking after class, and it turns out that she is Russian, and she had immigrated to the United States. And I said, "Well, what did you do back in Russia?" And she said, "I was an officer in the army, and I was stationed at the DMZ in the 80s uh, in Korea." And I thought that was exactly the same time that I was there, patrolling the DMZ. Had I seen her, I'd have fucking put a bullet in her head. Had she seen me, she'd have shot me too. But we got past that, and I mean, we didn't know or anything like that. I mean, but after that, after we both, I came back from Korea, and she went back to Russia, and then she immigrated to the United States. And I thought, had I been more successful in my mission patrolling the DMZ, I would not be teaching these kids. Uh, I would not be giving, karate lessons to these kids, because they wouldn't be alive, because I'd have killed their grandmother before she had them,
Mm,
right?
wow.
Uh, or the other way around. If she had been more successful, she'd be here, and she'd have a different instructor. So it was just kind of weird to me, because I thought about the impermanence of things, and then made me think a little bit about people who, we killed in Iraq, and that was in the 90s, and they would be graduating from. Some of them might even have grandkids by now, but they won't, because they're dead. And it's an interesting thing, because it just went full circle. It's like you never think, when you're at war, that somebody you kill, right, at some point will become, right, will become your, not just your friend, one of your customers, right? You know,
Yeah.
and I'm a mentor to their children. It's crazy. It's a crazy thought, you know. Like shit, if I had seen you back in 1985, I'd have fucking shot your ass,
Mm.
right? Or if you'd seen me, you'd have shot me, right? So it was surreal a little bit for me to encounter somebody whom at one time I was sworn to kill. And so, what's the point of this? Well, first of all, it sensitizes me. It's like, death does affect people. Don't be so fucking callous. Have some compassion. Number one, for people, because there before that, when people die and then other people are sad, I just have to, I have to be quiet and bite my tongue and keep myself from saying, "What the fuck?" Like I said, did you think it was going to last forever? Why are you shocked at this? I mean, in the same way that if you came to me and said, "Oh my God, I got my bills in," and Elise says, "Oh, I got to pay all this shit," and I didn't put money aside to pay my bills, right? Are you guys still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
here.
You know what I'm talking about? Like when one of your kids comes to you and says, "Oh, I didn't prepare to pay my bills," and you're like, "Well, why didn't you? What the fuck?" And I've seen you partying this whole time, right? And you didn't prepare, and now it's time, and come crying to me, and I don't really have a lot of sympathy. And in the same way, I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who have deaths in their family. I have to pretend in order to fit into society, but I just don't. I don't feel it.
Mm.
But it did sensitize me a little bit because I started seeing the greater implications of death, having been in combat. There's a greater implication. So it's like, okay, well, Robin, you think you got it all wired and you don't care and you're not sad, but realize that there are greater implications than just immediate loss, right? Where you lose somebody that you care about and you're never going to see them again, right? It's more than that because there's a person has children and their children has children, and it comes full circle, and you think and you're affected by it,
Mm.
right? You know, uh, and so I mean, maybe I shot somebody in Iraq, and then they become. If I hadn't shot them, the war is over, and they go and they become doctors and neurosurgeons and brain surgeons, and maybe save one of your kids. Right? This you don't know this kind of thing, and but it has also, in the sense, as not only sensitized me, it also helps me deal with it because I realize now, and I've realized this for a while now. It's one of my mantras. Shakespeare said, "Nothing is good or bad except thinking makes it so," and that's not exactly correct. He got it wrong. Is nothing is good or bad except timing makes it so.
Hmm.
So had I in 1944 killed a Japanese person, I would have been a hero. Wait 1 year in 1945, if I killed that same Japanese person, I would be a murderer. Right? And what is the difference between 1944 and 1945? Signing of the peace treaty on the USS Missouri. And we're no longer at war. So when you think about it and you kill somebody in a war, you're not killing some rapist. You're not executing a thief or a rapist or a murderer. It's actually one of that country's best people, right? A hero and a patriot. And if I told you, yeah, I know this one guy, he's a hero and a patriot. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, but he works for Al Qaeda, right? They're the ones who call him a hero and a patriot. I call him a terrorist, you know, right? And so uh, that that's my view basically. And like I said, I'm almost kind of glad because I know that Dave is going through it, and I hate to have I would hate to have this kind of brutal honesty with a guy who's actually going through it, because the other realization is that everybody's different, and it works differently, right?
Well,
You know?
with you saying that, I want to throw it back at you, Benji. Now,
Hmm.
you just recently lost a good friend,
Hmm.
and this was obviously not your first friend that you lost.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So, how long was it a period of time that you went through between these transitions between this one and the last one? And was there anything that you can think of that pulled you out of it, or was it just the fact that you still were carrying that hurt with you all that time?
5 years. I lost his brother 5 years ago. and we were
Mm.
close. We were 6 months apart, and I carry that to this day. It's just I got stronger. So when Brian passed, I carried that same burden, and I will get stronger, just like Brian did. When my mother passed, and my father and my stepfather passed, I was not close to them, so it didn't affect me as much. Right? It didn't affect me much. I didn't cry for them. Um, but Brian, Glenn, and my other friends back home, but like I had a friend just die before our 30th high school unit. His name is Jimbo. He and I play football together. Like we were, you know, PV, junior high, high school. I was the left side linebacker. He was a middle linebacker. He and I would chase people down, and we were buddy. That kind of teammate.
Mm-hmm.
When he passed away from cancer, I broke in half. I broke in half because that was my he was my childhood kid. We run together, we fought together, we fight with each other. That was hard. But as each of that go, I get stronger and stronger. But that weight of that rock is always the same. It's just I got stronger, you know. And with Brian was harder because I've been with him for so long. He was my protector. We talk about him protecting his brother from his father being abusive. He was my protector of all those years, you know, and I was been there with him all the time. And the reason you get the sincerity, Benji, is because he asked me for that. He want the real me. He always never cry. He never talk. But when he's with me, he can share with his pain, his hurt, his struggle with his ex, his kids, his fear. He's your size. He's 6'1", 6'2", big, 280, 209 pound guy. But he was time he needed his support, you know. But he couldn't ask that from his brother or his significant other, but he could ask from me. And I told you, I'm 5'4", at best 145 pound at most, right? But I show up every single time. And I told him, if you ever need to go to battle, I'll go with you. I was not born to be a soldier like you guys. My stepfather was a soldier for a reason. He taught me the discipline, but he knew that I could not be a soldier. That's the reason I'm more open, more emotional. Now, I'll be honest, when I put down those dogs, because I had a rescue center, and it was probably close to a dozen dogs that I rescued. And the last one, I I was there in the room when they put her down. Every part of me just went. There was nothing left of me. I think every tear I got went with that dog. When I walk out of there, I was just absolutely done. With that and those emotions. But that was me. But like back to the conversation earlier, like I was at the grocery store buying a barbecue. Me and Brian would go buy barbecue together, and we had this thing about how he ordered barbecue, and it hit me, and I started crying right there. I mean, immediately. And being the South, nobody judged me here. They're like, "Are you okay? Can we help you?" That's the thing about being here in the South. And was really, and I was in the military time. I was in Killeen, Texas, and they understand that. They'd gone through like a lot of these things, and and I'm part of that culture because, in a military town, you get all these ethnic people, different group of people, and when you see people suffering, it's not like judging. They go, "Hey, are you okay? Can we help you?" It's like, "I'm okay. I just lost my best friend. I'll be okay. Let me go sit and things will be okay." And that was really, really nice here. That's what I appreciate. But I was not so much like, have to hide my emotion and things like that. But what surprised me more than anything else, because I was holding on for so long, and this is the time that we normally go fishing together in Galveston. And we always drive to Galveston, and we always listen to this music together. We always listen to this kind of like playlist together. And when that song came, it was ELO. And I just start, I mean, I had to stop the car. I'm like, I'm just completely out of it, because it's such a connection. I understand that part of that. But what I really sad about was I I was hoping for another 10 years together. You know, we want to do things together more, and we keep talking about retiring together, doing more things together, writing together, doing financial training together, teaching people together, things like that. And he was gone. That was it.
Mm,
You know, and that's the sad part of the whole thing. And
yeah.
I know that when the night he passed away, I got back the next night. My balcony. I look up in the star. I see the twinkle, and I knew he was okay. That was my reminder he was doing good.
Sam, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had my father here saying
Yeah,
No.
something here. So
yeah,
here's what I wanted to ask of you real quick. I there was a period when and I think I'm going back to what you were saying, Robin, with the callousness of certain things. I think we mentioned that word. I had a very good friend of mine pass away in April, April this year, and very good friend, female, good friend, and we used to drink and talk a lot. Very good, close. She's come here sometimes and stay at the house and spend the night here with my wife and I, and it really took me out when she had passed. I I I I talked to one of my friends. He called me up because I was kind of my voice was a little bit broken up, and he said, "Hey, what's going on, man? You all right?" I said, "Oh man, I just lost a good friend." And he goes, "What happened?" And I said, "Well, she had been drinking, had a DUI, blah blah blah." He goes, "Well, was that something that happened before?" Has she drunk a lot before? And I said, "Yeah, yeah, she's drunk." Has she ever been pulled over before? And I said, "Yeah." Then he said, "Well, hey, that you should expect that then, right?" And when he said that, I thought for a moment, I'm like, dude, that's cold. But then on the other side, all the times when I had those conversations with her and I said certain things, um, they were something. I had to get this. I'm sorry, you guys. Hold on for just a moment. Please forgive me on this one.
take your time.
Okay.
No, we get it. I mean, it's like I know death is a rebirth. Like if you grew up like we did, like in a Buddhist temple and things like that, we know it's a rebirth. But ultimately, though, you know, I was not prepared to see him go. I was really hoping that we have another 10 years to be with each other and do our story the way that we want to be able to do that. That was my sadness more than anything else. Go ahead, Samuel.
So what it was that calluses. I'm sorry about that, you guys. Please forgive me on that one.
No worries.
Um, so with that being said, it actually is one of those things that I usually try to take note on certain things, having conversations like this. There's little tidbits that I can get. Just little tidbits that I get from what Robin said today, even for with you, Benji, talking about down south. I think that's one of those things location wise.
Hmm.
Down south, they can sit back there and they'll understand that. Being near a base, they can understand that about losing
Hmm.
somebody. They understand about
Hmm.
death and losing members and
Hmm.
that pride of fighting for our country. They
Hmm.
can understand other parts of the country, you know, nobody they'll look at you funny like, "Hey, you all right, man? Hey, you know, get out the way. I get the next person next."
Hmm.
There's different things, but I always try to pull and take little tidbits from conversations like this. And when my friend told me that thing about you should have expected that, she's been drinking, she's done it before, so what's the problem? It hit me because it's like, you know what? All those times that I let her sleep on my couch, all those times that we joked about things and we made jokes about, hey, you made it here by the hair, your chinny chin chin, and now you're here and you're driving back home and all these. I told myself that if I don't want to have that happen again, I have to be a little bit more proactive in certain things
Hmm.
and saying certain things. I can't
Hmm.
be in support of it and say, hey,
Hmm.
I know you've been drinking, and that's the halfway point between you and your house. Come on over
Hmm.
here and sleep. I need to be a little bit more proactive about it, because it
Mhm.
was just the other day. My wife brought up we're this is the room's kind of in a state right now.
Mhm.
She came and she brought her business card. Said, "Hey, look at this." She brought me her business card, and I looked at it,
Mhm.
and just like you, Benji,
Mhm.
my heart just dropped,
Mhm.
and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh!"
Yeah.
And we sat here, right
Mhm.
here, this spot. My wife just hugged
Mhm.
each other, and it
Mhm.
just really hit me. I mean, death sucks. It really does. But getting an understanding of it and having conversations like this, getting different perspectives and getting little pieces for me helps me kind of, okay, next time I approach it, you know what? I look at the way, kind of like Robin said, you know what? That was certain things. But you know what? When that song comes on again, I'm gonna make, you know what? This is exactly like what Benji said. I'm gonna take it for what it is. I always have thought for men, to sit back there and be in touch with yourself, or a guy to sit back there and say, "Hey, I don't want nobody to know that I'm a man. I'm a man's man."
Mhm.
But I think it's more of a man to sit back there and to show your emotions, and if somebody talks about you, that's gonna be on them.
Yeah.
You know, that's gonna be on them. But I've always allowed myself to just take these tidbits, and right now I can definitely say that um, just as little information we got right here, right now, is just kind of even giving me a little bit more perspective on that. I've always loved talking with Robin, because you're gonna get it straight, no chaser. That's
Mhm.
how he gives it to you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this is
Well,
probably one of the few times where I've actually heard him say something with a different perspective, with a
Mhm.
level of sensitivity that I've never expected to hear from you. And that's why I'd ask, are you a combat veteran? Because
Mhm.
there
here's the thing too, though. It's that what I'm hearing is it's a common theme, is that you hear this song, or like Benji, you said in particular, you said, I wanted to have another 10 years with this person, or I wanted to do that, and so in a sense, there's a sense of loss. But I mean, we sit there and think, okay, if I give you some little tidbit that's going to help you, it's not going to help you unless you're engaged in the daily practice, right? And so we need to be prepared for death. And like when my brother died this year, it was out of the blue. It was a shock. I mean, I got an email from his wife saying that he just died, totally unexpected. And I just seen him like a couple months prior to, like 2 months prior to him dying. Now every day when I make coffee, I make coffee every day, and I recently, over the last couple of years, I started weighing my food because I'm conscious of my diet, and so I put my coffee cup on the little kitchen scale, and I put in a certain amount of creamer and a certain amount of chocolate, and then everything's weighed out, and I have this super efficient system. It sounds like it takes a long time, but it's actually faster than scooping it with a spoon, and uh, and every time I do that, I think to myself, my brother would have loved it. It would have been like he would have been he would have been geeking out like a nerd over this way of me making coffee. And my brother has always been just this huge supporter of me, and this guy who just he thought that I was, he was my older brother, but he for some reason thought that I was this genius, right? He was always bragging about how smart his little brother is, and how badass he is. And I was just thinking, well, I'm not that smart and I'm not that badass, but I'll tell you what, he would have loved this little feature of how I make my coffee and how I prepare food. He would have thought that would be like, he would like, oh, I never thought about that. That's really cool. And so occasionally I will encounter things, but it doesn't affect me. I don't get all maudlin and break into tears. And as an example, when I heard about him dying, uh, people at work were saying, well, you need to take some time off, right? And I was a little irritated because I'm like, I need those hours. I don't need time off. I need fucking money. Time off ain't gonna do me any good, right? Uh, you know, um, and all of a sudden I got to take time off. And they said, well, do you need any time? And I was like, well, perhaps administratively, in order to support my sister-in-law, his wife. And my mother called and she says, what do you think we should do? And I said, we need to support his wife as much as we possibly can. I mean, she's the one who's suffering the greatest loss. Even though it's my mother is like, I lost my son, right? She had to hear that her son died. Um, to this day, we don't really. Uh, we've kind of lost contact with my sister-in-law. She doesn't contact us or respond to us very much. She just kind of drifted off. And truth be told, I have no idea how or why my brother died. It's a mystery. But what I do in
Are
my
you
Zen
curious
practice,
about that? Are you curious about that? Do you want to?
it's I'm curious, but in accordance with my Zen practice, what would knowing do?
Wow. So that's how Zen Buddhists look at death. Is that what
It's
you're
not so
saying?
much how Zen Buddhists look at death, but he's dead. So if I find out he was murdered, would he be alive? Would that change anything? You know, I tell my sister-in-law, you tell me what you want to tell me. If you need help, I'll give you help. If you need money, I'll give you money. If you need me to come down there and help fucking clear out the house, I'll come down there and clear out the house. Right? If you want to tell me how he died, you tell me how he died. But if you don't want any of that, then I respect that also. And I take that as equal, the same. There's no difference, right? Because why would there be? Nothing knowing about how he died or why he died or he died at the hospital, he had some kind of allergic none of that changes the fact that he's dead and that he's gone. And I've been preparing for his death my whole life,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
And and it's just like, again, if one of your kids comes to you and says, "Daddy, I've got these bills that came in. I was supposed to set money aside for it, and I didn't set money aside for it, and now these bills have come in, and now I'm screwed." And what would you say to them? Well, sounds like you're screwed, right? Now you want me to bail your ass out, and you knew this was coming, right? And it's the same way when people talk about death, and I deal with death, like the horse that we dealt with a couple years ago got hit by a car. It was tragic. Bones all over the fucking road, and we had to wait an hour for the veterinarian to come and put the horse down and watch the horse suffer and try to stand up on its not bones sticking out of its legs, trying to stand up. Horses don't like to lie down. They're not, it's hard to hold it down. It was a horrible scene of carnage. It felt like I was back in Kandahar. And you know, uh, after the horse is gone, once the horse is gone, there's no knowledge or anything is going to change any of that. And I was prepared for that. I rode that horse as much as I could ride it. Dealt with that horse as much as I could deal with it. So when you talk about dealing with death, in my opinion, the best way to deal with death is to deal with life, because none of that will change. You know, Benji, I got to come out and visit you sometime. Sam, we got to get together, right? Because if I go to work today and I get hit by a car, Benji's going to go, man, I wish I could have talked to Robin a little bit more. If one of you dies, if Benji, you fucking get killed, I'm just like, I wanted to hang out with him more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hang out with him now.
Right.
Don't wait,
Now,
right?
I will definitely say this.
Yeah,
That nugget that you just said right there,
right,
the best way to deal with death is life. That is actually a great saying to just kind of hold at least hold inside of here, so that later on when it happens, it's like giving people their flowers. It's almost like you were giving your brother your coffee thing is almost like an homage to him somewhat. I
right,
mean, that's what it seems like for how you are dealing with that, and probably every time when you do that, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, to hit you like, hey, yeah, I've been doing this for the last 2 or 3 years, and here's a cup to you, bro.
right.
Um,
Well, and then
I'm
don't leave things undone and words left unsaid,
there. You go. That's
right?
that's true.
You know,
That's true.
and I read the common denominator with you and Benji and everybody else, and myself included, is, I wish I had shown him this coffee thing,
Mm,
right? So that's my regret. I don't regret that he died. Of course he's going to die. Everybody's going to die, right? What I do regret is not having shared this little coffee nugget, tidbit of weighing your coffee to him. But let's do an analogy. Let's say you go to Disneyland, and you're enjoying yourself at Disneyland. You're having a good time. You're just loving it. You're a kid. And then all of a sudden, your parents say, or whoever says, okay, it's midnight. Park closes at midnight. Let's go. Now, what do? Right? You were enjoying yourself, and now the park closes at midnight. You didn't know. You're 10 years old. You had no idea it closes at midnight. You don't even understand the concept of midnight. But midnight shows up after the little electric freaking boogaloo, right? Uh, Park's closing. Security guards are sort of herding everybody out of the park. So do you get fucking mad and sad, or do you say, "God damn it, the fucking park's closing," or do you say, "I had a great time. I'm glad I came here." Right? So the I don't like to make cliches, but don't be sad that it ended. Be glad that it happened.
Hmm.
Right?
Okay.
And the only regret that I might have is there was a ride at that park that I wanted to ride, and I figured I'll ride that one after I do this other one, and after I do that one, and then the park closes and there's a ride that I didn't get on. I missed. Right? So ride every ride at the park.
All right, I got that.
Right?
Listen, I got that. So, for brevity's sake, I just want to ask you, Benji. Now, you 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 were a Zen Buddhist for a
Hmm.
while, or you were practicing.
Hmm.
Did you ever feel that what Robin
Mm-mm.
said? Did you ever feel that at all, or
No,
did you actually lean more in towards your Catholic side of things, or
it's a,
or your
it's a little bit both. One of the things that was taught for me as a Buddhism is resist nothing. Resist nothing mean if I feel pain, I embrace pain. If I'm sad, I embrace sadness. If I'm happy, I embrace it. All things have its purpose, right? If I'm sad at that moment, I will be sad. But if I'm angry at that moment, I'll be angry. I don't, you know, me and Brian never, never have anything left on the table. We always share, but we don't have like every day like we used to. Like you mentioned about the coffee thing, I have more recipe for him to cook. I'm the one to teach him how to cook. Like none of his ex can cook. And it's like I'm the one when we go fishing, I'm the one, me and David the one to cook. So that's the reason for that. So I lean toward that. So I don't hide my emotion when it come down with him. I don't hide my emotion with you. Now, like Robin, there's people in this world I high emotion against because they will judge that, and then we men we're going to dig in. But when it comes down to sincerity with people like that, for me, it's always been resist nothing, whatever that may be at the moment.
mm, okay. Well, with that being said, what it seems to me, in particular from both of you, and even for myself at times, is learning how to read a room. When certain things are happening, I know when it's time for me to open my mouth up and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm sorry, man. It's just," or, "Well, it happens. Blah blah blah." You know, even though it's tearing me up on the inside, I'm sitting back, I'm reading the room, and I'm saying to myself, "Okay, I'm gonna move on from there." So, you got
Yeah.
something to say, Benji?
Yeah, because you got to remember, some people are not going to be compassionate, supportive, right? And I'm not going to defend my position. So the reason I this is definitely the form cause and effect. I live in the South for the reason because they have that side of goodness, but they also there's also the badness too. But I
The
chose to live in
brisket.
the
I,
South.
I would
Yeah.
move there for the brisket.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I'm saying? I chose to live in the South for a reason, and that's the cause and effect for sure. Yeah. Y- Yeah, the biscuit and gravy here is spot on, man. Oh my God,
Oh, that too.
Even I can cook biscuit and gravy Asian style, man. Oh my Lord, we gotta do that for sure. But yeah, but that's the cause and effect, right? I caused that to be in the South for that purpose because I have supportive, and I chose my stepfather to be military because he was supportive. All my exes are just very much very more masculine, and they are my protector. I'm the one that do the thing that I need to get done. I love the grind, I love to do the battle and all that, but they are do what you guys do, the physical grinding, the physical fighting and all that. And I do more the emotional and the business side and things like that. I do all those things. And when the grandkids or the kids having hard time, they come to me because I can nurture that more. So but that's where we are.
Well, well,
Good
I want
topic.
to go. Look, in closing, I want to say this. I said I work with the Bureau of Prisons. And I will say this: I actually let my emotions handle a lot of things when I've dealt with
Yeah.
guys. There are
Yeah.
certain things where you're dealing with guys and there's fights and there's drama and there's lots of stuff
Yeah.
going on. There's guys who are hurt over news they got. The guy's
Yeah.
got, sentenced for 40 years for the rest of his life,
Yeah.
or whatever. And there are certain times, guys, where I have personally put my hand on
Mm.
someone's back.
Yeah.
Hey, come on, man, let's go. Let's talk,
Yeah.
and it totally changed the tide of war. Just that brief moment of showing a level of sensitivity. And I did not do it on purpose, but I found that that was something that worked for me in particular when you got 250 guys and it's just me, and there's some guy over here crying because he's in his area. I got to get him from his bed to my office because I'm gonna go send him to psych services. I go behind the guy and I put my hand on his back, say, "Come on, man." Now we're
Yeah.
not supposed to touch him, but you know what? It was. It was. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. It was. It was something that in that moment there that what we all are talking about is giving people their flowers when they need it right then and
Hmm.
there,
Yeah.
and being able to say, "Hey, let me get out of myself,
Hmm.
my self-centeredness,
Yeah.
and give this person here something that could possibly go a long way." And it has came back for me in spades. There are times when we've had issues go down where there's a riot going down. You know what they'll do?
Hmm.
Get Davis, get him out the way. But they
Hmm.
want this guy.
Hmm. Yeah.
They would
Yeah.
do that because just
Yeah.
that little bit of showing that mercy for someone
Hmm.
else, it can go a big way. So
Yeah.
we can talk about this subject at another time, but this
All
is a
right.
great thing. We wanted to keep it within this time, and sorry about the breakup earlier, guys, but this is a great conversation that I definitely would like to go ahead and have a full one later on,
Yeah.
um, and cross back on this because it is something big. And
Yeah.
also, I want to sit back and talk about crying
Yeah. That's the
at
next
another
topic.
time. It
That's a good topic for next one. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. So you guys take care, and this is we're gonna call this the Bridge Vision because this is my company. This is the Bridge Visions podcast, and we are out until next time. You guys take care.
All right.
Take care.
Cheers.
All right.